Welcome to the CSSN channel. Our topic for today is how is vitamin D absorbed? My name is Abazar Habibinia. I have an MD degree and I'm the director of the Canadian Academy of Sport Nutrition. Subscribe to the CSSN channel on YouTube to enjoy the information that we share on a regular basis about medicine, weight loss, fitness, and sport nutrition. Okay, we have published 3 videos about vitamin D in the past. After publishing those videos, we have received many questions about vitamin D. Questions such as how vitamin D is really absorbed. What are the differences between vitamin D2 and D3? What forms of vitamin D should I take? How much vitamin D do we make in the skin, in the sun? And what are the possibilities of vitamin D toxicity? Definitely, we will answer every single of those questions, but today I'm going to show you how vitamin D is exactly absorbed. Okay, I have already done some drawing on the board for you. This is basically the esophagus, then we have stomach, then in here we have a duodenum. Duodenum is the first part of the small intestine, and then we have jejunum, which is the second part of the small intestine. Then we have here the liver, and the green one, the gallbladder. After having a meal, when fat reaches to the duodenum, a unique hormone will be released from the duodenum. That hormone, it's called, I'm going to put in here for you, CCK. CCK stands for cholecystokinin. This hormone is released from the duodenum, is going to stimulate the gallbladder to contract, to release bile into the duodenum. The liver average produces about 600 milliliters a day bile, which is going to provide us 6 grams bile salts. Bile and bile salts are essential for adequate absorption of fat and vitamin D. According to textbooks of medical physiology, if there are no bile and bile salts in the duodenum, about 50% of ingested fat will be lost in the stool. So, not only is bile essential for the absorption of vitamin D, but also the primary route of vitamin D excretion is the bile. Now, if someone doesn't have gallbladder, you can guess what's going to happen. If someone doesn't have the gallbladder, there are many people out there that they don't have their gallbladders. Their gallbladders have been removed for some reasons, because of infection, inflammation, maybe because of the stone. Those people, because they don't have their gallbladders, there will not be enough bile and bile salts in the duodenum. That's why those people, they have difficulty absorbing fat and vitamin D. And also there are one more group of people that they can have difficulty absorbing fat and vitamin D. Those people who undergo basically gastric bypass surgery. Gastric bypass surgery is one of the most common procedures for obesity. In gastric bypass surgery, they're gonna connect the esophagus directly to the jejunum. So if someone has gastric bypass surgery, when the person eats something, food and fat is gonna go from esophagus directly to the jejunum. They're gonna bypass the stomach and duodenum. That's why there is no fat to be reached to duodenum to stimulate the release of CCK, gallbladder contraction, bile in here. That's why those people that they have gastric bypass surgery, they have difficulty absorbing fat and vitamin D. When fat and vitamin D reached to the duodenum, let's see exactly what happens in here. In medicine and nutrition, vitamin D comes in different forms. We have vitamin D3, D2, and at least 8 analogs of vitamin D. 2 famous ones are calcifidiol and calcitriol. Calcifidiol is the form of vitamin D that has been processed by the liver, and calcitriol is the active form of vitamin D that has been processed by the kidneys. There are 6 more analogs of vitamin D, and I didn't put them in here because it is not common in medicine to prescribe them. So for now, let's go with these 4 oral forms of vitamin D. Depending on conditions and situations, practitioners may prescribe any of these 4 types of vitamin D. And of course, they don't have the same mechanisms of absorption. As you can see in here, vitamin D3 and D2 will be absorbed into the lymph, and through lymphatic system, they will get to the liver. But calcifidiol and calcitriol, they will be absorbed into the blood, and through portal system, they will get to the liver. Let's go with vitamin D3 and D2 first. Vitamin D3 and D2 will be absorbed actually equally, but definitely they have differences. In our next video, I'm going to explain the differences between vitamin D2 and D3. When vitamin D3 and D2 they arrived in the intestine, they will be absorbed through 2 different mechanisms. We call them active mechanism and passive mechanism. Most of the vitamin D3 and D2 will be absorbed through passive mechanism. Only a very small fractions of vitamin D3 and D2 will be absorbed through active mechanism. Let me show you how passive mechanism works. You see, fat comes here. This is fat. Fat cannot be absorbed into the lymph system. Fat has to become some sort of water soluble. Here comes bile. Bile contains bile salts. Bile salts, they're gonna cover fat like this. These are bile salts. Bile salts, they're gonna cover fat to form a complex. That complex in medicine is called, I'm gonna put in it for you, micelle. So micelles are small complexes made of fat and bile salts. Vitamin D, doesn't matter D2 or D3, will bind to the micelles. Micelles are water soluble. They're gonna pass easily through the intestinal wall and they will get into the lymph. In the lymph, fat and vitamin D will be released. Fat and vitamin D, after being released, they will incorporate into chylomicrons. Chylomicrons are, they are lipoproteins that they're gonna carry fat and vitamin D through lymphatic system to the liver. But what happens to the bile salts in here? Bile salts, they're gonna go back to the gut lumen to bring another molecule of fat. Basically, over there we have some sort of like a cycling. That's why in medicine we say bile salts, they have ferrying function. As I said, most of the vitamin D3 and D2 that you take will be absorbed through passive mechanism, and you can see in here that we need fat and bile. But in active mechanism, there is no bile. In active mechanism, we have some carriers. I'm going to put in here carriers. Sometimes they are called transporters. They are located in the intestinal membrane. So far they have identified 3 of them. So those carriers or transporters, they're gonna carry small portions of vitamin D2 and D3 from the gut lumen into the lymph. But calcifidiol and calcitriol, to be absorbed properly, they don't need fat, they don't need bile. They will be absorbed directly into the blood, and through portal system they will get to the liver. Here comes 2 important questions. First one, can all forms of fat help with the absorption of vitamin D? The answer is no. Only long chain fatty acids will enhance the absorption of vitamin D, and not medium chain fatty acids. You see, long chain fatty acids are those the one that they contain more than 12 carbon atoms in their structures, and you can find them in butter, cheese, egg yolk, fish, olive oil, sunflower oil. You see, a long chain fatty acids, to be absorbed properly, they're gonna need bile, and also they're gonna need micelle formation, which is gonna bind vitamin D. Long chain fatty acids, they will be absorbed into the lymph. But medium chain fatty acids, because they contain less than 12 carbon atoms in their structures, could be 8 carbon atoms or 10 carbon atoms. Medium chain fatty acids, they don't need bile, they don't need micelle formation to be absorbed. Medium chain fatty acids will be absorbed directly from the gut lumen into the blood, and through the portal system they will get to the liver. And medium chain fatty acids you can find in coconut oil and palm oil. And of course, coconut oil contains some medium chain fatty acids and some long chain fatty acids. But there is a kind of oil which is famous in fitness and in sport, and lots of people they use during their keto diet. It's called MCT oil. MCT stands for medium chain triglyceride. Because MCT oil has medium chain triglyceride, it's going to be absorbed directly from the gut lumen into the blood. So medium chain fatty acid, they do not need bile to be absorbed properly. That's why MCT oil will not enhance the absorption of vitamin D. The second question, how much of those 4 oral forms of vitamin D will be absorbed? The net absorption of vitamin D3 and D2 is somewhere between 55 to 95%. But the net absorption of calcifidiol and calcitriol is between 81 to 100%. And also for vitamin D3 and D2, it's going to take 6 to 16 hours for them to reach their maximum concentrations in the blood. But calcifidiol and calcitriol, because they have faster absorption, it's going to take for them 4 to 10 hours to reach to their maximum concentrations in the blood. This is how vitamin D is absorbed. I am well aware of the fact that this was a complex subject, and I did my best to make it as simple as possible. I really hope that you learned something interesting today, because we make science easy to understand. Now you know. In our next video, we're going to discuss the differences between vitamin D2 and D3. Until next time, stay safe, stay connected.